Hey, welcome into what is going to be a very interesting episode today as Bitcoin is on an urgent path to either destruction or to the mountain. We're going to break that down today. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to Tech Path. All right, so we've been doing these market mover series. As you guys know, they're kind of a compilation of both data, news items, some sentiment factors that we look at across a lot of different platforms and tools that we use here on Rever Networks, and including our own platform, which is our own algorithm and machine learning system that we put in place to basically track keyword analysis on sentiment. We've kind of put all that stuff together, and these series are more of kind of a crypto edge series that we're going to be doing, which will be jumping right into the charts. A lot less news, really more about what's actively happening in crypto right now. As you guys know, when you woke up this morning or the wee hours, Bitcoin hit the 41K number, and that's when the fireworks started happening. So as we prep for the weekend, here it is Friday, and as we prep for the weekend, we're going to see what I think is going to be a very interesting weekend. Either one, the market makers are going to continue to try to test the market and push Bitcoin down, or we're going to see a recovery here into possibly the 42 to 45 range. And let's break it down to kind of give you an understanding of where that's happening. First thing I want to do is jump over here to Trade the Chain. As you guys know, we use Trade the Chain and the guys over there. And the main thing that I like to look at here with Trade the Chain, as you know, is really kind of the, even though I do like the daily sentiment, this is holding neutral. The 24-hour change is, of course, just price change, but the long-term is great if you're a long-term trader. I have found Trade the Chain to be very effective in long-term trading. But this right here is really where I'm interested in things. Let me jump back here quickly before I kind of blow that thunder. Let's go over here to, so relative tweet volume versus relative trade volume. Now, relative tweet volume is somewhat low right now, and there's a reason for this. And when you look at the relative trading volume that's occurring, also somewhat low. Here's what happened this morning. And this is something that I think we need to really pay attention to, because this is going to be, I think, play itself out through the weekend. I want to kind of show you something right here. I'm going to zoom in right here on this section, because this is right here at 4 a.m., okay? And this is price to sentiment, all right? Obviously, the daily sentiment is in at the green. The price is right there at the blue line. So as you're rocking this through 6 a.m. and at 10 a.m., right there we go, Bitcoin hits 41,000. Now I want you to kind of follow what happened here in a very short period of time. Let me kind of zoom out for a minute. You'll notice that negative sentiment was still supplanted, but yet we were getting what I believe was a market test to help rise sentiment right here, and it worked. So this goes back to what I think a lot of analysts are looking at right now, including us, because we really drill down into sentiment. Now, before we give you any recommendations, and not that they are recommendations, remember, this is not financial advice. We study the data and we basically look at this and give an opinion on where we think things are going to be going. Not financial advice. Make sure and do your own research. If you are a trader, because this is where it gets really sketchy and very troubled waters in crypto trading. Now, if you are a long-term trader, this doesn't really mean a lot to you, other than it's a great analysis of being able to look at long-term movement, because long-term patterns have a very similar and eerily similar effect on long-term price positions as what we do see in the short term. But as a reminder, not a financial advisor. We are more about computer science, data analytics, and research here on this channel. So hopefully this is going to give you kind of a little bit of an insight as to where crypto is going. And if anything, if you're watching this just as pure, if you're a data analyst, this is gold for you, because it's really starting to show some very interesting traceability, and being able to really kind of understand how retail investors are being pulled along, and what I believe right now are being manipulated by market makers in the crypto space. Now, is this a big deal? No, it's not, because it's happening in the stock market. It has been for decades. This kind of thing goes on in the stock market every day, minute by minute. It just wasn't really an identified scenario or phenomenon in crypto until over this past, basically this past crash that we just experienced. And a lot of people started analyzing things quite a bit differently. We started applying a new methodology to our study of where crypto is going, above the line of where sentiment is going. So I want to jump back over here to the trade the chain model. And as you can see right here, sentiment was still lagging. Retail investment started pulling itself up, and we saw that occur. We saw a nice little dip. Retail sentiment started climbing right here this morning. Retail investment started climbing. Boom, you hit this, and there you are at 41,000. And guess what? We see the market makers drop a bomb and take Bitcoin literally down to 38,000 and then on its stair step to 36 right there. Watch what's happening in sentiment right here. Right here, sentiment starts to lull. We're going to see in about 6 hours sentiment falling into the negative. Now, what we did was, that's quite a bit different. And I want to jump over to our trading view chart. So what we really dived into this morning was to try to pull retail sentiment. And what you see here on screen, let me kind of zoom in up a little bit here. This is the 41 line, all right? So this is kind of that new high that basically the market makers are working on right now as we look. Now we'll go kind of out across and you can kind of see where this comes from. But this is literally just leading up to, and we've gotten really focused in on this. But retail sentiment, remember, going back to trade the chain right here, that was where we were. Now let's go over here to trading view. Right there, this is the point where retail sentiment was that lull, and then they picked it back up right here. Let me zoom in on this because this is where it gets really interesting on this regression area. This is where the market makers essentially dragged the retail investors back into the market right here. Retail sentiment 4187. Look what happens over here. There it is, right there. This dragged them in right there, and that basically set up what I think is the manipulation that is occurring right now in Bitcoin as of about noon, 1 o'clock Eastern time here on Friday. So we saw the retail sentiment, and boom, here we are. Sentiment starts to fall. Now this number is coming in advance of what you're going to see on Trade the Chain, I believe. And retail sentiment took a huge dump right here. Right here is where people started buying in again. And we see a little bit of a test happening right now. This is a test happening right now, literally at 1 o'clock. This is a live view. And of course, we're at probably around 37 right now. If I refresh this, let's take a look at cryptocurrencies currently, just at the, 37.49. So you can kind of see what's happening here. These sentiment drawdowns that are happening right here in this range are the retail investors selling off on the way down. This is not good if you're a retail investor and you're basically assuming that this is another crash. That's essentially what I think these manipulations are trying to get retail investors to do. It's much like what happens in the stock market. It's exactly, it is playbook 101 of what's happening in the stock market on stocks day in, day out, is baiting in the retail investors to sell at a loss or sell on the way down and be able to buy in the basement and start to move that market on back up. The key here in understanding of how to be able to manipulate, when I say manipulate, you being able to manipulate and understand where the market is moving. If you are a day trader in crypto, this is a very, very sketchy space right now in the sense of where Bitcoin is going. So here's kind of where I see the strategy for the weekend, because I think this is what we're dealing with right now, going back here to the 40 fall off. They've got to be able to get back up into this range. So they're working toward that right now. We are literally seeing activity flying right now. Let's go back over here to CoinMarketCap just to see if let me do a 37.1, so it's risen again. Because I'm not using a live chart right now. What I did basically was froze this in time, and to give you guys kind of the retail sentiment analysis that's popping in across here. So as you can see, this flow is where it brought this new bottom in. What it looks to be this week's new bottom, which is around 36. And I think that was a huge buying opportunity. Obviously, as you can kind of see, what happened right here is a market maker came in and said, yep, that's the new bottom, time to jump. And took it right back up. Thought they might get a little bit of carryover, but because sentiment had dropped so far from 40, look here, from 40, let's go over here, jump into where sentiment was just a little bit ago. Sentiment at 41.87, retail sentiment. People were getting a little bit riskier, willing to risk it, and then started to see this trend line right here occurring, and sentiment fell through the floor, which is why this test failed right here. This test failed right here. That test. This should have had this line going on up and taking it here. So what we're seeing now is a little bit of wobbling and unsureness from the retail trade, which is basically kind of got everybody on edge right now of where Bitcoin is going to be moving. The big question is if they can get this back in play and start to take this up, could this be the one that is going? Because we are still seeing probably, I'm going to guess that we're again a little higher, and we are 37,209. So it's definitely tracking up right as we're analyzing this chart. I don't have enough data. I wish I could get sentiment live. We have to pull this from our database. I wish I could pull sentiment from right here to see, because if this has a little positive sentiment move from here, then this means that we're going to see a bit of a rise coming out of this because people will start buying at this point. And that's the key. I think that's what you have to look at when you really dive into these candles and understanding where this stuff is moving. And as we have been watching the markets over the last few weeks and seeing this massive sell-off, or I shouldn't say sell-off, it's really just a correction, but again, still believe that there is some manipulation going on, just like the regular stock market. It has made its way into cryptocurrency, and it's definitely alive and well. And you can almost take a lot of what this is doing and look at, and we just started really studying this thing called the Wyckoff theory. If you haven't, go Google that or check it on Wikipedia. You'll kind of see a pattern that occurred in the previous crash. And when I say the previous crash, not the one earlier this week on Sunday night through Monday, that crash which brought Bitcoin down to around 32K. This is kind of a mini version of it that just adjusted itself for the weekend, which brought Bitcoin down to 36 off of a 41 high this morning. That was a pretty big move when you look at that. And where is it going over the weekend? So prediction-wise, I'm looking at this right now, still very strong. Again, 37,292 and continues to climb. So this may be the point, back to the chart here for a second. This may be the point where if you were in, right here was another buying opportunity this morning about an hour and a half ago. And this, of course, being recorded about 1:13 Eastern time. This was about noonish, and that was an opportunity to buy at the 36, 37 range. And right here, you can kind of see where we are back to the charts at 32,227. So this is where it's starting to take its move. And that essentially is what I'm recommending when you look at this thing over the weekend. Is I'm kind of seeing that we could possibly get around a 42 to 45 Bitcoin price. Then we're going to see if this is actually the move upward that continues on. Now, and people ask us all the time, is this the end of the bull market? Is it over? Is it just kind of capitulating to where we're just going to see that bobble moving back and forth for months, if not for a year to come? And I do not believe that this is the top of the market. I think that we are still in play here, and we're seeing some softness. One thing, though, that I have come to realize is I'm not so sure that some of these major influencers are having as big of an impact on Bitcoin as the market movers are. The market movers, I believe, are guiding the price of Bitcoin and many of these currencies, including XRP. XRP is another one to really study. XRP, Ethereum, and Bitcoin are the three that I really watch very closely. And this does not appear to have as much impact from like an Elon Musk as what I initially thought. You know, when you look at the sentiment relationship along with what is happening with just the general market and where the buying opportunities are occurring, and now they're getting tighter, so you can start to see them a little bit more clearly as opposed to when they're further apart, which is what we had pre-crash, much further apart in terms of buying opportunity. That just tells me the institutions are in here in a big way and really kind of looking at this market much like a stock market. And you know, when you look at all of where we're going, let me just kind of jump back here. I just want to jump out. I'm in the a pretty wide view right now just to kind of cross over to see the action going from the fall. And there she starts. So that was the original, working its way through, and then right here into what we deal with, which is another major dip. And this is where we are right now. Again, back to the point of really zooming in on this, and you can kind of see that fall off. This again was where retail sentiment was right after the drop. Then it rose a little bit. We started to see a little bit of play right there, and then a regression period occurred, and then bam, sentiment fell again, and the test was, I think the test broke right here a bit because the sentiment fell so quickly. They pulled it here, sentiment rose, and then sentiment fell again. And that goes back to the same kind of thing over here on Trade the Chain. If you look at what happened right here, pre-market high, they pulled the sentiment up. And when I say they, meaning all you have to do is look at price. If price is where it is, when someone's looking at their app and going, oh, it's perfect for me right now, I can get in and buy at 39. It's on its way up. It dragged that price right up to 41,000 right there, 1015 UTC, and then bam, there she went to the current one, which is the current new drop, which was 36,309. And that, hopefully, if you got in right there at 36,309, that was a good buying opportunity for you this morning. Let me refresh this and just see where it is now. And you can probably see this sentiment continue to flip. There she goes. Look how that sentiment dip is starting to rise right here. So we're getting a little bit more confidence right here. This is literally getting into granular study of where Bitcoin is moving on a day in, hour by hour, minute by minute basis. If you are a trader and you're going to this level, this requires a lot of time and a lot of effort. What we look at is more of that 12-hour period of sentiment. And is there something we can identify that is a pattern that help us take a look and say, okay, there's a potential pattern. This is the one we're currently looking at, which is the drop into 36 and what I think is going to be a rise into the 42 to 45 range over the weekend. This is what we're going to see. We'll see this, of course, trading throughout the day here with New York, obviously, as the major East Coast trades are occurring. West Coast will start to drive this into the night, and then we'll start to see Sydney and, of course, Asia move it. If you are tracking this, I think it's another 3 a.m. morning for you on Saturday morning to take a look at where things are. Might be an opportunity. One, if you purchased in early today when that 36 dip hit, then there may be an opportunity for you to sell if you are looking at moving the market and kind of doing those kinds of scenarios in terms of trades. If you're looking long term, this is just another Tuesday for you or another Friday for you, getting ready, and because you're looking at where this is going to be in 3, 5, 6 months or 2, 3, 5 years. Still, cryptocurrency continues to be a very impressive element in terms of store of value, and I think that's what we're going to continue to see across the market. We're going to continue to try to do these more crypto edge versions of the show to get you into a lot of the tools that we're literally tracking here hour by hour in the studio, and try to get more and more experts on to help kind of break these strategies down, because there are a lot of things happening in the crypto space that really is leading in. Hopefully, you guys are going to have a great weekend on cryptocurrency. Hopefully we won't see another craziness occur. This could be the front end. As always, you've got to maintain, if you are trading short term, you've got to maintain a very tight rein on where the markets are at all times. If you're on long term, this is just another little bubble or another little dip that may have given you another opportunity for buying in at 36 and being able to continue to dollar cost average on your way to your cryptocurrency riches. Hopefully that's happening for you. Make sure if you are listening in over on the podcast to subscribe, hit the like, or excuse me, hit those stars, and also just leave a rating over there. Talk about why you like the show on the podcast side of things, whether it's on Spotify, iTunes, etc. If you're over here on YouTube, make sure and subscribe. That's the number one thing you can do to help the channel. And share this video with someone. Send it out to one of your friends. Say, hey, you should check out TechPath and what Paul's doing over there. That's really what we want you to do, because hopefully this is going to help you in your future, one, of understanding where technology is going just in our society, because we cover so many different characters or areas of technology, from EV, AI, robotics, obviously digital assets, which is what we think will be changing where the monetary system will go in the next 10, 25 years. All of that is happening right before our very eyes. This is a great time to be living. If you have an idea for the show, shoot it to me. It's just producer@reverendnetworks.com. And you can also hit me up on Twitter @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.